Shalom, and welcome to another lesson in the series, The People of Israel, Striving for Leadership. Today, we are studying the book of Judges, chapter 10. And chapter 10 begins, based on the previous stories we spoke about, the family of Gideon and the family of his son Avimelech. And we saw how there was a slight chance for a real, true, genuine, sincere, long-going, constant, stable leadership. But it failed. It failed with the end of Gideon's time, and it failed even much more in the time of his son, Avimelech. But here, chapter 10 begins with two short stories. ויקום אחרי אבימלך להושיע את ישראל תולה בן פועה בן דודו איש יששכר והוא יושב בשמיר הר אפרים. After Avimelech arose to save Israel Tola, the son of Pua, son of Dodo, a man of Yisachar. He lived in Shamir, in Mount Ephraim. And he judged Israel for 23 years, and he died, was buried in Shamir. After him was Yair the Giladi, and he judged Israel for 22 years. He had 30 sons, riding 30 colts, and they owned 30 towns, known as the villages of Yair until this day, which were in the land of Gilad. Yair died and was buried in Kamon. So we don't know very much about these two leaders. One of them is from the tribe of Yisachar, the other of the tribe of Menashe, Gilad, Yair, and Tola. We do know these two names are in the family. We know in the book of Numbers, and also in the book of Genesis, when they're mentioning the children of Yisachar, he has two children, Tola and Puva, who are in the book of Chronicles also named Tola and Pua. And here we have Tola ben Pua, which means the name in the tribe. Yair, the same thing. We have in the Torah for several times of the children of Menashe. We have Yair, and he has a city called Chavot Yair, which are like the villages of Yair. Yair had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys and 30 colts, and they owned 30 towns. But every single child owned a town and a donkey, and he was like a small little emperor, a small little kingdom in the villages of Yair. Well, we don't know very much about this, but we do understand that this is an introduction to what we're going to see immediately. And in order to understand what we're going to see immediately, I want to read verses 6, 7, 8, and 9, and try to understand what is going on here. The children of Israel continued to do what is evil in the eyes of Hashem. And they worshipped the Baalim, the Ashtarot, the gods of Aram, the gods of Sidon, the gods of Moab, the gods of Ammonites, the gods of the Philistines. They abandoned Hashem and they did not serve him. This verse number 6, is a very difficult verse. What does it mean that the people of Israel worshipped the Baalim, the Ashtarot, the gods of Aram, the gods of Sidon? How could people of Israel worship so many gods? It doesn't sound even reasonable. I mean, maybe we'd even say they abandoned Hashem. Of course, they'd abandoned Hashem. They didn't have time. If in the morning they served the gods of Ammon, in the afternoon they served the gods of Philistines, in the evening they served the gods of Sidon. Of course, they didn't have time to worship Hashem. Of course, that's not the simple understanding. The simple understanding is that every single tribe worshipped a different one of the gods. Now, why is that so important? It's very important because let's continue on and read what it says here. Verse 7. Vayichar af Adonai b'Yisrael, vayim kirem biyad plishtim uviyad bnei Ammon. And God was pretty much filled with anger against Israel, and he delivered them in the hands of the Philistines and the hands of Ammonites. They oppressed and crushed the children of Israel from that year, and for 18 years. All the children of Israel who were in the far side of Jordan, in the land of Amorites, which is Gilad. What's difficult about the story here, who is the nation that the people of Israel worshipped? Did they worship Philistines, or did they worship Bnei Ammon? Because in the same verse, in verse 7, it says, he delivered them in the hand of the Philistines and in the hand of Ammonites. The second thing is in verse 8. In verse 8, they worshipped the children of Israel, they were oppressed that year, and for 18 years. So was it that year or for 18 years? We can say that it began that year, it continued on for 18 years, But that's not what the verse in Hebrew says. It says, "Vayiratzu b'nei Israel b'shanahi shmoneh esrei shana et kol b'nei Israel shebe'ever Yarden." We also see the people of Israel is mentioned twice in that verse. They oppressed and crushed the children of Israel from that year, and for 18 years, all the children of Israel who were in the far side of the Jordan, in the land of Amorites, which is in Gilad. So did they attack all the people of Israel? All the people of Israel in the land on the other side of the Jordan. What we can say is that we are actually talking here about two stories that are happening in two different places at the very same time. One is the people of Israel were given in the hands of the Philistines. When does that go on? There we can go on to verse 8. The Philistines are the ones that oppressed the children of Israel that year. And then the second half, Biyad b'nei Ammon, in the hands of the children of Ammon. This goes on to the second half of verse 8. 18 years. And it's very interesting, it's very reasonable, that is the simple understanding here. And that is because the second half of the verse, it says, Kol b'nei Israel, all the people of Israel, Asher be'ever hayarden, which are on the other side, the far side of the Jordan River. The Ammonites are those sitting in the far side of the Jordan River. So it's really obvious that the people of the Philistines attacked those that year, the people of Israel, on the one side of the Jordan River, and Bnei Ammon, the children of Ammon, attacked Israel on the other side of the Jordan River. Now, why is this so important? It's important because in verse 9, we now have combining the two stories. Vayavru b'nei Ammon et Yarden lilachem gam b'Yehudah u'b'Binyamin u'b'Beit Ephraim v'teitzar liYisrael me'od. And the Ammonites, in verse 9, crossed the Jordan to wage war even against Yehudah and Binyamin and the house of Ephraim, and Israel was greatly distressed. What happens here? In verse 10, the children of Israel cried out to Hashem. Why only now did they cry out to Hashem? It's obvious that they cried out to Hashem because these children of Ammon crossed the river. What does that mean? It means that before the children of Ammon crossed the river, for 18 years they were oppressing the children of Gilad, the people of Israel, Judah, Benjamin, Ephraim, couldn't care less. It really bothered them like last year's fog. It really bothered them like the blue moon. It had no interest in it. And then, here we could maybe a little more understand what happens here. Because when we read in verses 11 till 16, it says, Vayomer Adonai el bnei Israel, Halomi Mitzrayim and Amorim and Bnei Ammon and Plishtim. The children of Israel cried to Hashem, and that we have sinned to you. And then Hashem says to them, I took you out of Egypt, from Amorite, from Ammonite, and from the Philistines. The Sidonians, and the Amalek, and Maon all oppressed you, and you cried out to me. But, and here's the very difficult verse to understand. They go cry to Hashem. And what does it say in verse 16? They removed the foreign gods from among themselves, and they served the Hashem, and he could not bear Israel's suffering. It means Hashem, they cried to Hashem, and Hashem didn't want to listen. He was already fed up with their suffering. How can we say such a thing? How can we say such a verse? He says to them, it says, and they took out, they removed the other gods, but he couldn't bear their Israel's suffering. And then what happens? The Ammonites come down and camped in Gilad, and the children of it were gathered, and they camped in Mitzpah, and the people, the leaders of Gilad, said to each other, whichever man opens battle against the Ammonites will become leader of the inhabitants of Gilad. The people of Gilad have been waiting for 18 years. The people of Israel, when it wasn't bothering them, when the Ammonites were attacking the people of Gilad, the people of Yehudah didn't care. And what God says to them, listen, I saved the people of Israel all over. from the Tzidon, from Amalek, from Egypt, from Amorites. But you go ahead and chose different gods. What does it mean you chose different gods? And here we get back to that verse, we saw verse 6. The people of Israel were not even united. Even when they worshipped other idols, every tribe worshipped a different idol. The chapter 10 is, the essence of chapter 10 is coming to say, the people of Israel are totally separated. I think this chapter is maybe the main core chapter of the book of Judges. Why can't the people of Israel find leadership? Because every single tribe is dealing with its own problems. Even when they worship idols, everyone's worshiping a different idol. When they have troubles, when the people of Ammon are attacking the people of Gilad, the people of Judah couldn't care less. When the Tzidonim are attacking the northern tribes, nobody could care less. And this is what happens at the beginning of chapter 10, is with these two small leaders. They're two small local leaders. They will save their tribe. Tola will save Yisachar. Yair will save Menashe. But they're all only involved in their own tribe. And this is the explanation of the lack of leadership. The lack of leadership is because when the people who are on the border are attacked by the nations that are near them, the people in the center of the country couldn't care less. When does it bother them? It bothers them when, in verse 9. Vayavru b'nei Ammon et hayarden. When the Ammonites crossed the Jordan to wage war against Judah and Benjamin, then the people of Israel are so greatly distressed. And this is like the introduction to the next chapter where we talk about Yiftach. We're not going to talk about that now. But the importance, the essence of chapter 10, coming to say the reason why you don't have leadership is not because the fact that the leaders have their problems, that we spoke about in chapter 8 and 9. But here the Torah, Hashem is saying, I am not going to bear your complaints. I'm not going to listen to your prayers, to your crying out to Hashem, because each and every one of you are divided. When will I be able to help a leader start arising and start leading the people? When you understand the importance of cooperating between all the tribes. When you understand that you're all one nation. Those that are on this side of the Jordan River and those that are on this side of the Jordan River. And that's where the verse says, Hashem sold them to the hands of Philistines and the hands of Bnei Ammon, as we saw in chapter 7. Why does it mix these two? Why does it mix these two nations? So the people of Israel, when you read this chapter, you understand the fact that the Philistines are bothering one side and the Ammonites are bothering the other side. It's not two different sides. It's all one people. And if you want leadership, it's only when each and every one of the tribes care about what's going on to the other tribe. And this is like the core of the book of Judges. The core of the book of Judges, people of Israel are totally, each one dealing with its own business, not caring about the other. You want Hashem to hear your crying. You want Hashem to establish leadership when the people of Israel unite and be one. Shalom.